I want to introduce our next session by talking about men's suit jackets. Now, men's suit jackets are very complex. They can contain up to 250 different pieces of material, feature elements dating back to the 17th century, or they can sport details from the most modern and creative fashion designers. Whatever the case may be, producing clothing is a process that rewards attention to detail. Now, the same goes for selling clothing. In this keynote, we look at how Brooks Brothers harnesses the power of SMS messaging and personalization to sell millions of dollars worth of clothing by paying attention to the details. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give us a round of applause for Eric Miao, the Chief Strategy Officer of Attentive, and Andrea Silva, the Senior Director of Digital Marketing at Brooks Brothers.
So, I'm glad to be here with Andrea, and I think just as a quick introduction to Attentive, so we're the leader in conversational commerce. We work with 5,000-6,000 brands, CB2, Brooks Brothers, Urban Outfitters, to run personalized two-way conversations through SMS and email. And so I'm really excited to be here with Andrea, and maybe just introduce yourself, tell us about Brooks Brothers.
Sure, Andrea Silva. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Marketing, as Eric mentioned. I've been with Brooks Brothers about 2 years now. For us, digital marketing encompasses paid media, email marketing, and obviously SMS. For those of you that are not familiar with Brooks Brothers, we are a 200-year-old heritage brand. We're actually known for inventing the button-down collar. So if anybody here is wearing a collar that buttons down, you're welcome.
Amazing. So maybe just to kind of start for you, you joined Brooks Brothers at what, in hindsight, was kind of the craziest time ever. So peak of the COVID boom, June 2021. Tell us a little bit about, what were the sort of like needs you had, your goals when you come into Brooks Brothers?
Yeah, so it was the trifecta, right? So a bankruptcy, COVID, and then being acquired by Spark Group. And so I think initially, we wanted to just let our customers know, like, we're still here, it's okay, and kind of get our ducks, in a row. And from an SMS perspective, it was like, just send them. Let's send them, let's see what happens, let's see how they respond to the SMS.
And so, your audience, and I think, maybe other people in the audience will be like this. Before we started putting this together, I sort of assumed, Brooks Brothers, that's like my dad's richer friends buy that, and that's what I thought the whole business was. Yeah. That is not actually the case. Tell us a little bit about who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, so we'll take your dad's rich friends, so they're still welcome. But any heritage brand is gonna have, similar challenges in the sense that your customer is gonna age out. And so for us, one of our focuses is looking towards a younger demographic, right? And so again, heritage brand, a lot of times you think younger demographic and you're like 18 to 25. We're more millennial. We are a bit of a upscale luxury brand. So we are looking now to really focus and target on the millennial audience or millennial mindset.
And so when you're looking to find those people, there's a little bit of a challenge because you have to actually go and find out, are you actually this old, or have you actually done this? Tell us a little bit about how you meant to go out and find out who this audience was.
Yeah, so it's through a few different ways. We do have a CDP. We work on Imparity, so we pull all of the data that we know about our customers into Imparity. We've actually also been able to leverage SMS to learn more about our customers in a couple of ways. I don't have my phone here. They wouldn't let us bring it up. But, everybody has their phone in their hand, right? Who makes a phone call anymore? Everybody texts. And so think about how many emails you get. You get inundated with emails. A text just feels more intimate and feels more like, back and forth communication. So we've done a couple things. It's gonna sound super simple, and sometimes the smartest things are, right? We put a birthday sign up as part of our sign up module. And we, I think, have over 70,000 birthdays that we've collected. You wanna be careful, you don't wanna put too much information in there, right? Yeah. Or too many questions in there. But some of the other ways that we find out what our customers are shopping for, who they're shopping for, because again, we have men who shop, women who shop, people who shop for both.
More casual wear.
More casual, exactly. And that is something that did come out of the pandemic. We definitely started to focus more on what we call casual sportswear. But one of the things that we have done recently, holiday, and then we did it again for Father's Day, is we literally used an SMS journey to find out what people were shopping for, right? So it's the holidays, you're inundated with messages and promos and all of those sorts of things, and it's like, okay, well, let's take a step back and let's have that intimate conversation via SMS and say, who are you shopping for?
And I think we see this a lot, obviously, where there's a movement away from third-party data collection. Sometimes it's the brands wanting to do it. Sometimes it's Google and Apple saying,
yep,
good news, you don't get to use that anymore. But for first-party or zero-party data, are you finding that it's like getting over the hump where a bunch of people say, I'm really disappointed I'm not getting relevant messages, but also I don't want to tell you anything about myself to actually get that?
It's like, cater it to me, but I'm not going to give you any information. So again, I mentioned in parity, so we use our first-party data there. So we understand, who you're when you're shopping, how frequently, what you're buying, and so we can lean into that a little bit. But again, I did talk about first-party data, right? So I'm going to ask you your birthday. I'm going to ask you, who you're shopping for, and then I'm actually able to send you a message specific to you. So we all have promos, right? And 40% off this or 30% off that. And it's like, okay, Eric, I know you buy chinos because they're fantastic. And they're in black. And, I can now send you an SMS because I know that you've told me you're shopping for yourself. I've seen that you've purchased, black chinos before. And so when we have a promo relevant to that, I'm now sending you an SMS. It's not getting buried in your email. And it's that one-to-one connection. And you're like, hey, this is relevant to me. These are black chinos that I like to buy.
Well, maybe sort of revisiting the strategy and the goals you had. So in 2021, it is come in, make sure people know you're still here, and you're sending them a text, and that text maybe says, hey, there's a sale.
Right.
Over the last 2 years, as you've started to learn all of this stuff, how has that changed the strategy you have?
Yeah, so we started with the basics. Again, I know that we all want something that's going to be this earth-shattering, discovery, but it is definitely crawl, walk, run. So we started with gender. Who are you shopping for? Men, women, both. Then the team really started to focus on engagement. Are you engaged? Are you responding to the texts? If you're not, let's put you into a re-engagement journey, right? So now you're getting a text that says, we really miss you, come back and shop, and now you've got an offer, right? And so not only do we know your gender, we know your birthday, we know what you're shopping for, we know if you're engaged, and then I think working with my fantastic team, we just kind of think about some of the business hypotheses that we have, right? Like an event will be coming up or a new product will be launching, and we'll kind of talk about who is this right for and who wants to hear about that. And then I think the other key thing that's important for Brooks, and not sure if it's something that other folks are challenged with, is that we do have Eric's rich dad's friends or dad's rich friends. But we also have millennials, right? And so a lot of the millennials have found us through TikTok or Meta or a very different platform and experience than maybe, if your dad had gone into the store or his friends had gone into the store. So that's the other thing that really I think is great about SMS, is that I can very easily, without creative help, without a copywriter, send 2 different messages, worded differently, maybe with an image, without an image, to my 2 relatively different customers, and I'm now speaking to them instead of just some blanket thing that's coming into their phone.
So if I'm in the audience and I'm thinking, okay, well, Brooks Brothers probably has this huge team and they've got all this data, and so operationally, who's actually doing this work? How is that actually happening?
Yes, so my team is here and they can attest to the fact that they are not a large team. They're fantastic. But I think One of the other things that has been helpful for us is some of the AI pieces that Attentive has brought to the table for us. How many times, like raise your hand if you're trying to figure out how many times do I say we have a 40% off sale? Like think about Black Friday, right? It's like so overwhelming. And again, lean team. And how do I ask, Ashley and LaDon and Courtney, hey, how many ways can you say it's 40% off during Black Friday? So we use the AI tool. We tell it a little bit about what we want to do. It's a sale, it's a new launch, we're talking to, millennial men, and it will actually give us a whole bunch of ways to put, to write that SMS. And so we all know it's much easier to edit somebody else's stuff than, doing it on your own and coming up with it from scratch. So now that we have all these segments, right, you're like, oh my goodness, I now have to go from one SMS to 7 SMSs. And it sounds overwhelming, especially if you do have a lean team. And the truth is that the AI does most of the work for you, right? And it really supports the team.
What about for some of the stuff where you're adding in like net new kinds of outreach? So I think a lot of people in the audience will have a content calendar, they'll have an e-com team, and they'll know, this is what our inventory is going to be, this is what our sales are going to be, and so the messaging comes from that. What I thought was interesting when you said the birthday collection stuff is like that's actually a net new kind of message. So tell us a little bit about how that comes together, what that sequencing looks like, how that's resulted in sales.
So I mentioned earlier that we've already collected 70,000. From a birthday perspective, again, it is pretty simple, especially with the tool. We send a birthday message with a coupon at the beginning of the month that your birthday is in. And then if you have not redeemed that coupon, we send you a reminder. It varies from month to month depending on how many birthdays are in that particular month. But I will tell you that, SMS for us is kind of went under the radar, so to speak, and we talk about it as the little engine that could. I think at this point it's anywhere between 3 to 5% of our total demand, which is pretty impressive. And I think sometimes people talk about it's a little more expensive than email or whatever the case may be, but we look at anywhere between an 8 and 11 ROAS. So I will spend the money if you're going to give me, $8 or $11 back.
And you have like a little bit of an extra opportunity because you have the full omni-channel experience. So tell us a little bit about like how you make it more relevant and better for the person as the consumer who like might shop on both channels.
Right. So LaDon and the team worked with our store ops team to put sign up in store. So that was the first way. Again, so now your dad's friends text, right? Maybe not as much as some of the rest of us, but they go into the store. There's a QR code or a text to join. They can scan it, text, and they can actually get that 15% off coupon that we provide in the store. We launched BOPIS, Buy Online, Pick Up in Store, last year, right before the holiday. And we've been able to communicate to a customer based on their preference. Do you want to get emails about your order and when you're ready to pick it up, or do you want to get SMS? And so it's very seamless. We're going to be talking to the customer in the way that they want, whether they're in store or shopping online.
And I think that like you've seen, and I think Brooks Brothers has worked with us for the last 3 years, the sort of question I get pretty often is, I want to grow my list. I also want to send more messages to people, and I want to balance, making sure people don't opt out, making sure they get value. How have you seen the list grow as you've been adding in these new kinds of messages? We've
seen it double. I think about 2 years ago, we were at about 200. Now we're at 400,000. And I find that since the team has started doing the segmentation and thinking about the messages that they're sending, we're seeing increased conversion, we're seeing increased demand. I mean, who doesn't want to get marketed to in a way that they can relate to? And again, that's why I think, SMS has been a great tool for us, because like I said, it feels different than some of the other, forms of communication. Your mom texts you, your spouse texts you, your friends text you, Brooks Brothers text you. So it just has a different feeling.
And you mentioned the AI stuff, and this is something where, we've spent the last year or so looking at this, And it kind of seems like SMS, just in terms of like all the channels, it's gonna be easier for AI to start making an impact because the text is very short and sweet. You know, it's 160 characters. Like there's only so much information you can get into it, whereas an email is sort of like a little website. There's a lot of work that goes into it. What other ways is your team using it to sort of get these more personalized messages out?
Yeah, journeys are a big thing. I already talked about how AI is helping us write some of our texts to our different segments, but journeys are great. We just did one for Father's Day. Leading into Father's Day, a little bit of prep required, but you know, we basically said, hey, what do you think you're gonna shop for on Father's Day? And you know, you respond, well, I'm shopping for my dad, I'm shopping for my husband, it's his first, you know, whatever, it's his first Father's Day. And we have this automated two-way communication, so someone's not there responding, obviously. And now, once you tell us a little bit about yourself and you kind of go down this journey, we're like, we've got the great gift for him. You know, here's a Supima sweater, or here are, again, black chinos on sale. And so you kind of set it up, and it does the work for you. You know, it doesn't replace someone having to think, but it certainly makes it much easier to communicate to your customers in a more personalized way.
What about more for like planning? So like one of the things you said to me when we were putting this together was like, you have your Father's Day and you spend a week organizing everything you're going to do, and then you get to Father's Day and you're like, oh my God,
yeah,
I forgot to send the
messages. The AI, yeah, so isn't that funny? Like we're always so focused on the holidays and then we actually forget to send like, you know, Happy Birthday America. So we use Attentive's holiday AI journeys, and literally it can just be a very simple message. You can set all of your holidays up, and now, you know, as we're scrambling to finish things, we don't have to be like, oh crap, you know, it's Father's Day, we need to send an SMS to our customers. Again, it's just, we all have so many things on our mind and there's so many things that we're thinking about. This is just like one little thing that you can check off and know that it's covered and you don't have to worry about it.
And when we're looking forward, so, I mean, obviously like the technology that goes into copywriter, I think almost a third of our clients now, a message that they're sending, it's influenced in some way because it's literally like, when you're writing it, it's like, hey, what about this? What about this?
Yep.
The thing that we've started to see is the actual consumer, so the person who's getting the Brooks Brothers message, they're starting to realize a little bit, like, I actually can reply and like something is gonna happen. So when you're starting to look forward, how are you thinking about like introducing that kind of like expectation setting to the consumer of like, you can talk back to us and like we're actually going to be there to help you?
I don't know if it's setting the expectation so much as meeting the expectation, right? I mean, we all expect if you reach out to a brand, if you respond to a text, that someone is going to respond back to you. And if they don't, how annoyed are you, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I know you guys are working on the, you know, concierge from an AI perspective, and really being able to have someone have a you know, one-to-one conversation like, hey, I bought this shirt, the collar is a little tight, you know, I want to exchange it. And now there's a whole conversation happening telling them how they can exchange it, where they can go, what size might be better for them. And nobody has had to put that time into responding to that customer. I know our customer service team, especially around the holidays, you know, we're always adding more people and always trying to ramp up in time for the holidays. And this is like a great way to mitigate some of that if it can be handled via SMS.
When you look forward, so I think like our hope would be, you know, more of the data collection starts to be more natural. So, you know, someone signs up and their welcome message, instead of saying, here's your code, it's like, what are you shopping for? And, and that data collection starts and it gets piped in wherever. Looking forward, what is something that you're really excited about or hopeful for that either, you know, you want technology providers to start to do, or that your team is going to have the free time to begin doing, because right now they don't have that much free time?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we kind of talked about a lot of them, right? So the ability to have messages written for you when you're, you know, trying to talk to different people and you're not a copywriter. I think the ability to have that one-to-one conversation from a customer service perspective, or even just from a brand intimacy perspective. And then I think the last thing is that I believe that SMS can actually continue to be a bigger part of the relationship that we have with our customers and help drive demand.
Yeah, we find that like loyalty, it tends to be the fact that like your most loyal customers,
Yes.
they actually just are the people who trusted you with their phone number.
Right.
And so a lot of the loyalty enhancing sort of like work is just going to happen naturally that way.
Absolutely, and I think it's good that you mentioned loyalty because we do have a loyalty program, and so now instead of sending one message that's blanket and not relevant to you, I can now send a message that says, hey, and you have X number of dollars to use, why not use it during this sale? Again, a loyal customer is someone that loves your brand and feels that you know them, right? So start with the basics, man, woman, and then just work your way down. You all know your businesses better than most. Think about where you're going to have the most impact, and that's where that's where you should focus.
Amazing. So I think that's all we got.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we get cool outro music, but thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody.